happened was my younger son, who's 2, went streaking out the front door.
Ooh, streaking.
While my wife was getting a Christmas present delivered and trying to put it directly in the back of the car. So in my heroic efforts to keep him from seeing what the present was, I chased him out the front door and tripped over the scooter that was laying over our front step.
Well, as we have started pretty much every Laker show this season, we start with the injury report. Yeah, so we wanted an injury update from you.
I mean, I'm doing okay. I can move around a little bit. I mean, I won't be out there on the hardwood anytime soon, but I'll be in the boot for about 4 weeks, and then hopefully get back at it, resume training in the middle of January.
Very well said. And Brett, you got it, Brett?
And Bill, of course, you had to have a Jones pun in one of your tweets, so always on point, even with a fractured foot. I appreciate that, Bill.
They break my foot, not my spirit or my pun game.
And Brez is not injured, by the way. He just wanted to hang out with his fish tonight, so we're all together. We're all together and well, which is a good thing.
A little sad, yeah.
As for the Lakers, let's dive in. Good to see the both of you. They are coming off their 5th straight loss of the season after losing to the Nets on Christmas Day. After falling behind by 23, the Lakers roared back on a 31-8 run in the second half behind LeBron James' 39 points, tying his season high. But the Lakers still fell short. Lakers held practice today at the UCLA Health Training Center. After practice, David Fizdale gave his thoughts on the Lakers' losing skid.
Man, it don't matter what team you coaching. When I was coaching the Knicks, and where people didn't expect nothing, if you lose 5 in a row, it's misery, and you're not happy. But there's 2 types of ways you can respond to this, right? And that's the only thing we can control is our response to a 5-game losing streak. We could either bitch, moan, complain, point fingers, deflect, or we can get in the gym and work together and get in the film sessions and have raw conversations and talk about what we need to do to get better and improve. The beauty of our 5-game losing streak, if there's any beauty, is that the leadership that's rising up from the ashes of this is something to marvel at. You know, you guys don't get to see this stuff, but to watch LeBron James and AD and Russell Westbrook and Melo and our veteran guys navigate this and keep our group focused on the main things without pointing fingers has just been something to really sit back and enjoy as a coach. And to have that for our coaching staff, to have those kind of guys who don't panic or don't get sick at sea, that's a real luxury for us. And so, I feel really good about this group and where they're at. And I know everybody's like, oh man, the Lakers, but ultimately we get our stuff together and you got to beat us in a series. I'm going to like where we are.
Strong words there from David Fizdale. Brez, I want to start with you. The season so far has not been ideal for the Lakers. I think we can all agree on that. When it comes to the slump that they're in currently right now, where does it start? How do they get out of it?
Well, Allie and Bill, I think defense really is the key. You look at this 5-game losing streak. They're giving up an average of 119 points a game. What does that mean? You're going to have to score 120 a game if you're going to want to start winning these games. That's not easy to do for even the Golden State Warriors or the Phoenix Suns on a consistent basis. So, got to be defense. Just too much give in the Lakers' defense. You have the poor second half, perhaps against Phoenix, and obviously Brooklyn, poor first quarter and third quarter. So they just can't seem to string together a good, entire defensive-minded 4 quarters. And hey, I get it. So many guys still out because of the health and safety protocols. And your defensive anchor, Anthony Davis, we're still not certain when he's back. Could be another 4 weeks or so before we see him again. Still, someone has to step up and start playing defense.
Brez is absolutely right. I mean, defensively, this team has to be the hallmark of this team, and it hasn't been, especially over this stretch. We saw them start to climb up in the defensive rating standings, got up to 9th, I believe, at one point, and then lost a bunch of guys. And as Brez said, it's been terrible over the last 5 games. But I hate to be this guy, right? But like, the thing that the Lakers need is to start getting healthy. They need to start getting bodies back. And one thing about, having guys out in the protocols is hopefully once you get them back, they are a little more protected and that you're going to have them. So, you got Malik Monk back. He looked really good. Hopefully, Austin Reeves should be toward the end of his quarantine. Kent Bazemore, Avery Bradley practiced today. So those are bodies that really help, and they help defensively too, to Brez's point. So it's been a season-long issue, have availability, but hopefully you start getting some guys back and you can start to build a little bit of rhythm, because the guys the Lakers have started so many different starting lineups, so many new lineups on the floor. There's been just zero continuity. And the Brooklyn Nets have had the same issue, by the way. So I think that that's a little bit of an issue when you look at the Christmas game. But the only way they can start to build any sort of rhythm is to get guys back and keep them healthy. So that got to be the only goal.
Speaking of lineups, which have been consistently inconsistent, but when you looked at that run, that 31-8 run, Brez, on Christmas Day, to tie the game at 1:15, that wasn't small, by the way. That takes a lot, and that's for a long stretch. On the floor during that run, Carmelo, LeBron, Talon, Stanley Johnson, Malik Monk. Obviously, Westbrook then came in, replaced THT. What stood out to you, though, about that run that you liked? What'd you see?
Well, I think a couple guys. Yeah, definitely a couple guys. I know some of the reporters were all over Stanley Johnson. Hey, great defense by that kid. He did a really nice job of trying to shut down that backcourt for Brooklyn, which really did have its way with the Lakers. And Malik Monk keeps being the underrated scoring source for the Lakers. You know, hopefully that you're going to get the points from the big three, or now I guess just the big two. Carmelo jumps in, seems like every other game on average. Malik Monk, though, very underrated to have him back out there. He was really solid the other night. I keep saying this. Watching him from afar over the years, I thought he was just kind of a slasher a little bit, maybe some mid-range, maybe some three-point shots here and there. He really is good around the basket, a lot more athletic than I ever thought. He looked great in that Brooklyn game.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Malik Monk. It was great to see him back out. Stanley Johnson obviously brought a ton of energy. I just liked the pace and intensity the Lakers played with in the fourth. I mean, there was a real urgency to the situation. Now, they dug themselves a hole. They were playing against a shorthanded team that let their foot off the gas a little bit. So there's a lot that goes into a run like that. But I do think the Lakers put themselves in a position to win the game. They tied it with 45 seconds left. Some great movement off the ball by Malik Monk. LeBron found him for the tying basket. So, I mean, there were momentary positives you could take away. And there were positive things to show in film, by the way, which is really important for a team. But we've also seen this. You go back to the game they lost in Chicago, which was a close game, and we heard David Fizdale say, "Hey, I think we saw some things here that can be a blueprint for how we play without Anthony Davis." Well, then they didn't do it for the next two games. So there are things that you can take from it, and there are positives and things you can show, but they have to start doing it on a more consistent basis, regardless of who's in the lineup. It has to become sort of there has to be a credo within the locker room of this is how they are going to play. And that's going to start, obviously with this road trip.
So obviously there's this 5-game losing skid. You take it one step further from the whole team to this one piece, LeBron James, who had a big night on Christmas Day. In addition to passing Kobe Bryant and the league's all-time leading scorer in Christmas Day games, he led the team, tying his season high with 39 points, 14 of 25 from the field. He also grabbed 9 boards while adding 7 assists. After the game on Saturday, Fizdale was disappointed that LeBron's effort didn't end up in a team win.
I'm kicking myself in the head because he's giving me incredible effort. And I'm trying to figure out ways to get him over the hump with that effort. And I hate that it's wasted on losses. But it's spectacular. And I hate that it's wasted on losses. But to watch it and to be a part of it, even though those games are turning into L's, I've never seen anything like this guy. And we better sure as hell be thanking our lucky stars for this guy. This guy has played. He has given us the most beautiful basketball over the last however many years, and he's still giving it to us on Christmas Day. Did he break the record today scoring?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. At least I can say I was there for that.
LeBron, now that we're sort of a week into you playing center on a much more extended basis, I'm just curious physically how that's gone. Guys sometimes talk about the extra sort of like leaning and banging and stuff like that. Have you felt any of that? And I guess, what have you liked about those lineups?
No, I don't feel anything. I've come out of over the last couple of weeks, feeling pretty good besides stepping on Jay Crowder's foot the other day. But as far as me playing the 5 defensively or playing the 1 offensively, I feel great. I really do.
All right, but let's talk a little LeBron when it comes to this stretch, especially. Hard to deny his numbers. One might say it's a silver lining in terms of, he can still do this. But then the flip side is how concerning is it that they're not turning these efforts into W's?
I mean, it's hugely concerning in the sense he's doing everything. And you ask him, well, what does the team need? He's like, I'm just going to do more. And you look at his numbers over the last 4 games, he has progressively scored more points each game, always over 30 points, 39 on Christmas Day. He is doing more and more and more and more. and there just isn't enough support. And some of that is who's available. That's real, obviously. But he needs more from the guys who are on the floor. He needs more from Russell Westbrook. He needs more from Carmelo. He needs just more support. I mean, I don't know how much more you could expect from any individual player than the numbers you're seeing right now. And those minutes, by the way, are concerning. LeBron James at 37, those numbers should be coming down. He should not be playing his age in minutes on a given night. And when I look at this team, that was a big part of the rationale of the Russell Westbrook trade, that he's going to, one, help in the non-LeBron minutes on a nightly basis, which hasn't really happened yet. And he's also going to wear and tear on LeBron because you're going to need less from LeBron. That also hasn't happened yet. So the Lakers can and will lean on LeBron James as much as possible, and he will do his best to support all of that. We've heard it before in terms of, he's built different, wide shoulders and all that. But it's not a sustainable model for winning, especially over the long haul.
And he'll tell you that he wants to play 37 minutes a night because when he plays, it makes him better.
But he also doesn't believe in the cumulative toll of lots of minutes a game. He doesn't think there's a difference between 37 minutes and 32 minutes. But playing 40 minutes on Christmas, then going into this back-to-back, and he just needs to be able to delegate more.
Yep.
And this team right now is not constructed in a way that is allowing him to do that.
So 35, 10, and 5 over the last 5 for LeBron, or 4, I believe. Whereas when it comes to him playing at the 5, how different does it make this team? And I actually would ask the question, can they even afford to put him at that position for longer stretches, or long stretches, if you will, given what it would require?
I'll tell you what, it didn't look so good in the third quarter the other night against Brooklyn. Dwight Howard did not come out to start that quarter, unlike the start of the game. I'm enjoying it. I feel like it gives the Lakers a really good chance. A little bit more floor spacing without Dwight out there. Even though, Bill, I know you know this, he's been shooting some threes this year, but let's face it, Dwight Howard really is not exactly Kevin Love behind the arc. I'm cool with this. What I'm not so cool with, and Bill kind of hit on it already, LeBron 40 minutes against Brooklyn the other night, 39 last week against Chicago. These minutes have to drop. They just have to stop piling up and piling up. Some of it's a little skewed. If you look at the body, the average minutes he's played this season, he had a triple overtime game. He's played a couple other OT games that have kind of got that minute count up. But these are not overtime games. And so, I'd like to see that drop ASAP, really.
Did you want to follow up there before I go on?
I mean, I just completely agree, and I agree about LeBron at center, but it's also out of necessity. I mean, generally it would be AD, it would be Trevor Ariza can be your small ball 5.
Yep.
Those guys just aren't available, so at this point it has to be LeBron.
That's what you have. That's what you get. We got a handful of tweets changing gears to what's in fact impacting, the league and pretty much anyone. The NBA has continued to push forward despite the rise in COVID cases. Baxter Holmes tweeting this out Sunday. At the moment, I count 200 total NBA players who have entered the league's health and safety protocols this season, with 187 entering in December. There have been 208 total player entries all season, as a number of players have entered protocols multiple times, with 191 of them coming in December. He then added this breakdown of the numbers by week. NBA player entries into the league's health and safety protocols by week. You see prior to November 29th, 14, 29th through December 5th, 13th, and then the rise happens middle to the latter part here of December. Through the 6th and 12th, 15, 71, and then 20 to 26, 95. We continue with the latest news for the Lakers. Team announced that Rajon Rondo has entered the league's health and safety protocols. He has played in just 18 games for the Purple and Gold, but his presence and leadership on and off the floor have been valuable. So other than the addition of Rondo, there are no new status changes. But here's where we are at. Lakers continue to have 4 players in the NBA's health and safety protocols, along with head coach Frank Vogel. Monday, Coach Fizdale said that Coach Vogel still needs to pass tests before being cleared. You see Rondo, Bays, Reeves, and Ariza there with Frank. Speaking of health and safety protocols, one more for you. There have been a new development from the CDC for those that don't have symptoms. U.S. health officials are cutting isolation restrictions for those who test positive for the coronavirus and shortening the time that close contacts have to quarantine. People with the virus can leave isolation after 5 days down from 10 days. Bill, your thoughts on the change and how it affects the league?
Well, I mean, we've heard from Adam Silver that there is, a hope that eventually this can become more endemic in the sense that, we will see players, get it and then be able to be back more quickly and where it becomes kind of more part of a normal rhythm, at least for the time being. And so this moves us one step closer to that, where, a guy testing positive for COVID doesn't necessarily, derail his team's season in the way that we've seen so far with teams, including the Lakers.
Brez?
Allie, do you know how long the COVID handbook is that the league passed out last year? 134 pages. What does that tell you? A lot of thought went into this. A lot of medical experts weighing in on behalf of the NBA. So in no sense are they taking this lightly. They did not pass out a one sheet or even a 10-page small spiral notebook.